After praising Ferrari, for the past week or so, Ferrari have just done Ferrari, and Ferrari are back to being Ferrari, and their Austrian GP was pretty much a disaster as far as it goes. If you compare it to Barcelona, they were pretty much nowhere this weekend. I mean, in qualifying, they managed to get the best out of the car, but when it came to the race, they were absolutely nowhere compared to the Mercedes, compared to the Red Bull, and even the McLaren on Charles' side. It was a complete disaster. I kind of want to break it down and go through what I think happened and why I think they were struggling so much in Austria. To start with, it was kind of a weird strategy from Ferrari all round. Lewis just came out and said that he wanted the free stop, but the timing, it seems like they just took the virtual safety car to pit Lewis as he was struggling on the hards. He wasn't even on them for that long, a few laps. No more than 10 laps he was on the hard tyre, and they pitted him for the soft. The soft may have been his best stint, but Lewis also said he wanted to start in the soft. And would it have made much of a difference in their strategy today? I do kind of think that no matter what strategy Ferrari did today, they would have struggled. Because you've seen Charles, he started P2 and he finished way further back than Lewis. I think either way you look at it, Ferrari's strategy may have not been the best today, but I do feel like they got the most of what they could have regardless. They just had no pace to fight with Mercedes or Max Verstappen today. It just really wasn't there for them. It wasn't their day, and there's many factors to that. The altitude in Austria could also have been a factor for Ferrari today with their small turbo. Now, some people were saying, last week or so that it would help their small turbo, but many people who know more about this than me have said that having the small turbo could actually hurt Ferrari. And Ferrari also did bring an engine upgrade this weekend, so you're probably thinking, how come Ferrari bought an engine upgrade that's meant to give them more power seem worse? How are they worse than they were before? But I think, it might come down to something else, which I want to get onto here. With the new engine comes new engine mapping, and I did mention in a video before that Ferrari did want to look at their engine mapping because that's something they've kind of struggled with their deployment. But it seems like, I don't know if with this new engine they have to try and figure out the best setup again for it, the best deployment, because it seems like they were struggling. They were kind of struggling to do that throughout the race. Even Antonelli in the cooldown room said that the Ferrari's deployment was really strange. It was really weird and something was going on. Like they were catching Leclerc closely in the corners, like dangerously closely. So I definitely think with their new engine, there might be some deployment issues. There may be some sort of mapping issues that Ferrari need to, figure out with this new upgraded engine. Maybe they tried something this weekend and maybe it didn't work. I definitely think that that could be a factor. So when you factor that in with the new engine mapping, the altitude doesn't suit them, very high heat, and other teams bringing upgrades, it kind of all dwindles into this thing where it makes Ferrari struggle. So I definitely think that Ferrari could have more to come in Silverstone. Maybe they will understand their new engine a bit better. Slower altitude is a track Ferrari usually do well at. I mean, that doesn't really matter this year because of the regulations, but I do think Ferrari will be much improved come Silverstone, and I really do hope that's the case because today they were just completely nowhere. And knowing Silverstone, it has been a heat wave in the UK, but the track temperature should be a lot cooler than it was in Austria. I've talked about the altitude, I've talked about the engine mapping, I've talked about the new engine, I've talked about all these factors, but another factor that could be is Ferrari had to turn their engine down because it was so hot. Many manufacturers had engine cooling problems today. Even Ferrari themselves had to, throughout the race, go in modes to cool their engines down. So it wouldn't surprise me how Ferrari's pace was a lot off today was because they had to turn their engine down so it didn't blow up basically, which would affect their power output. And if you factor in the altitude as well, it's just a disaster. It's a recipe for a disaster. It's a recipe for a disaster. It's a recipe for a disaster when you add all of these things up. And I think that is a factor, but I also think other teams might have had to do the same. It wouldn't have just been Ferrari's problem. So I also think that, a new engine, they don't want to ruin a new engine straight away. So I think there is many factors to why Ferrari struggled this weekend. I don't necessarily think it's down to one thing. I want to get onto the drivers a little bit. I think Lewis performed as well as he could have. I think he got the maximum out of the car today. Charles Leclerc struggled a bit more, was kind of on the same strategy, kind of not on the same strategy. It was a weird race for Charles Leclerc. He just struggled a lot more than Lewis, and Lewis wasn't exactly having a great race, but Charles struggled a lot more. So I think the Ferrari drivers, it might be a weekend, you know, they got some points. It's kind of a weekend to forget for them, and they want to really bounce back in Silverstone. As for the rest of the race, George Russell won, Max Verstappen second, Antonelli third. I do think if Red Bull did Ferrari-esque strategy in Barcelona, in Austria today, that Max Verstappen could have won the race. Seems like they were hesitant to pull the trigger first, and they didn't really catch Mercedes sleeping. Maybe they need a little bit of luck, but I do think Mercedes were there for the taking today. So I do think this championship fight is getting more interesting. You know, Red Bull brought their upgrades. If Red Bull provide a car to Verstappen, we know he's going to be fighting for wins. And Russell winning today opens the championship right back up again. It's Antonelli, Russell, Hamilton, the top three, and the others aren't too far behind. So this championship, we still got 14 races to go. It's nowhere near over. It wouldn't surprise me if in Silverstone we see a different competitive order than we did in Austria. So this season is nowhere near lost. It's a long way to go, but Mercedes are still the class of the field. Their engine and their chassis is still, as much as teams are closing, they still do have a pretty decent advantage, and it showed today in Austria, specifically a power circuit, that they do have the engine, they do have the car to perform. And I think it's crazy how Red Bull have been determined the best engine, but I think it's no doubt the best engine and the best battery altogether. Mercedes have that completely. Whether it's their deployment mapping, whatever it is, Mercedes engine overall is the best engine. So I do think it's kind of ridiculous how they managed to get upgrades. But you know, that's F1. But let me know your thoughts down below. What did you think of the race? What did you think Ferrari struggles were? Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers, and I'd really appreciate it. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.